Hi, this is really exciting. It's only my second time speaking. I'm going by origin story. I've been like anon, but we're doing cool stuff, so I want to start sharing it with people. As Shannon from Livepeer said, my name is Sean. I'm the founder of the Gallery DAO, and I just wanted to start with this quote. Or is it the other one? Sorry. Perfect. So just kind of echoing a lot of what's been said already, technology like art is a soaring exercise of the human imagination. I think we're also at a crossroads and have an amazing ability with Web3 to kind of not right some of the wrongs that Web2 technology has done to creators, but to provide opportunities for creators who have now become small businesses to succeed. For a long time, we always talk about like B2B, right, or B2C. And now, thanks to Web2, we have this kind of new group of people who are creators who have become small businesses. So we talk about all the TikTokers, people on YouTube, people who have tried to find a way to kind of like monetize their careers, right? And as we see, sorry? Okay. Sorry, I didn't have a rehearsal. As you know, we're moving to the next version of this. We see a lot of people losing income, especially when we talk about music, things like this. Creators, there's not really revenue streams available for them. So how can we also think while building technology for solutions that also empower that? So I'm just going to talk a bit about what we're doing at the Gallery DAO. Which is more creatives in tech. We also leverage tech and have developers working alongside us, but some of the things we've done over the past couple of months while we've been in formation and some of the projects we're working towards. So yes, so just really quick, the Gallery DAO, we create disruptive XR experiences that champion diverse voices. We are like half creative DAO and agency and then half social DAO. So you can come in and help us build things, or you can just hang out and come to our events. We do experiential minting, immersive experiences, creative development, and we've also started doing creative strategies for emerging tech, so helping products find a product market fit, user acquisition, what are they trying to actually speak to. So today we're talking about humanizing tech, the future of Web3, right? So this idea that technology can support humans to actually create amazing things and not necessarily have to be this kind of destructor. We think about 1984 and all of these kind of like preeminent Minority Report, these things that have been given to us. And from the outside, it feels like the rise of AI and all of these things are actually like very dangerous, right? A lot of people are scared. But what we've kind of found in some of our early work right now is that artists and creators are actually very excited to use these tools. But what happens is usually a product is built in a silo, and so then it's given to creators to use instead of having them help build out what's the best use cases inside of that, right? So something that we've done this year, this fall, it's like, I don't know, it's in crypto and Web3, I don't know what month are we in and how long ago? So we've been playing around with an AI engine that was built and optimized off of stability diffusion with one of our partners in France called Cela Studios and our dev partner Nomu Labs. And we essentially did text to image, right? Which now we're talking about video. Don't worry, we're going to get there. And what we basically did was we took artist presets. So we worked with a portfolio of local Colombian artists during DevCon, and then we made presets off of their work. And then we had people make text to image. So you had new images created based off of their portfolio, and then these artists actually painted these things out into Bogota, and one made an XR mural. So this is a super just primal example of kind of how the art engine is working. And yeah, so if you see on the left, this is one of the artists, Angelica, and this was just an experiment. And so then they painted, this is a different crew, but they essentially painted out in DevCon. And one of the things that's really great about this kind of exchange and humanizing, right, is the idea of street art is actually a public good, right? We talk a lot about public goods, public assets, private assets. So we're moving towards like super expensive NFTs, maybe not so expensive depending on what you bought, but this idea of like how do we also take the best of what was already existing before in terms of like a museum, right? We think about a museum, or even like the Central Park Film Festival where everyone can come and lay in the park in the summer and have access to this entertainment and these things. So how can we also, while we're thinking about tech and what we're building, not just think about the privatization and the monetization models, but how are we actually providing public goods for humans, right? So that everyone can actually grow and learn, experience. You never know where the next amazing idea is going to come from. And a lot of times it comes from students or kids who don't have access, who suddenly are given the opportunity to be a part of something. So some of the feedback about AI and things that we've learned, right? Everyone thinks AI is very scary, but a lot of the artists we've been working with want to be able to leverage emerging technology for their own creative process. So some of the artists we worked with in Colombia, when we were showing them this idea of what you could do with AI and how it could input presets, they started thinking about, okay, now I don't actually have to go to Pinterest for 4 hours. I can actually have my own engine and then use that as inspiration, right? So that actually helps to facilitate the creative process as it's going. And the other thing we learned is humans love to be creative. So these are just from, this is basically 2 weeks. We started in DevCon. Again, my math is terrible in terms of how many or where I am. But as you can see, people love to be creative, right? Humans love the opportunity to showcase their own talents. So these are the beautiful things that can happen with technology. And then if we start to tell stories like Juan was talking about, you actually get to a really new sort of place. So you get to help people understand maybe, principles or certain themes of society. So we were in Colombia, and magical realism, it's basically the home of magical realism, right? Which is this very kind of, like it started as a literary device that then has shown up in many films, especially from like Alfonso Cuarón and a lot of the Spanish filmmakers. So Angelica, who you saw a bit of her preset, this is actually the result of her work. So it was a text to image that was a preset that then she made out, and this is actually viewable in spatial in a full mural. But what's cool about this is about the Darien Gap, which I actually didn't know about. And the Darien Gap is actually between Colombia and Panama, and it's like this lawless, drugless, very, very dangerous land, and most of the migrants pass through that, right? So like on their way to America, a better future. But using this technology, you can start to tell these stories for people, right? So moving on, just one more. This is another idea of how this was a father and son, and essentially we put both of their presets together. His father had just died, actually, in Colombia, so then he took that and put he painted this out into Colombia. So the idea that, you can have an artist who maybe passes away who can continue to create new pieces for their community, which is a very exciting sort of like benefit of this technology. So up next, now we can talk about video and AI and AR and all of these things, right? So one of the things we're developing at the Gallery DAO right now is a CDK. So we want to make a creator development kit, going back to this idea that it's very difficult and it's very, like, as a creative, and I'm speaking as someone who has worked professionally since I graduated and even before then, at the beginning it's always fun. It's really easy, right? You have friends, your family, like people can support you, like it doesn't have to be great, right? Everyone's first music video, if you look at like Nicki Minaj or any of these people, it's always like low level cameras and it's so cool, man, because it's like you just shot it for nothing. And then people are like, who are you? And then that you get into this little middle bubble where it's like that's no longer sustainable, right? You actually need to be able to keep up with people who are competitive in every field, from filmmaking to all of these things, and their tools become very expensive, they're inaccessible, they're gate-kept. So how can we, in this next version, when we talk about open source, also provide open source kits for creators, right? So that people who are actually in this world where they could make amazing things, and it's, yes, we have two sides of the coin. Let's throw it at everyone like a TikTok, right, and just see what comes out, and then we have this, and that's the result of, like, I don't have the slide again, but there's 100 million videos, right, with so much content being made, and it's like, that's cool, and maybe we don't need to curate things to some degree. However, then it's also just a lot of noise, right? So how do you like provide opportunities for people who also are trained in this for years? There's so many filmmakers, musicians, people who are amazing who kind of get to this point where they can no longer compete and then they're out of the game, and we lose so many of these people who could be our next Picassos, our next Beyoncé's or next whatever, right? Like Roald Dolls. Like how do we actually provide them with opportunities to be able to grow and excel and utilize this technology early? And another thing we're working on in addition to the Creator Development Kit is the idea of use cases for musicians around AR, AI, XR, and of course text to video, which is really exciting to see some of the things that were being made by you in Stability. There's actually a startup called Runway, and they're doing machine learning, and they're really at the forefront of how can you use text to video. They want to be a competitive Final Cut, right? right? And that's also amazing because so many people have creative ideas in their head that they can't necessarily express out in that time, and to be able to take language as a new medium and reclamation of that, right? We've already come to like emojis. Even I'm the worst, right? I used to be doing the thumbs up. Now it's like, okay, clearly I'm a millennial, not Gen Z, because thumbs up are like out of fashion. But that like our kind of like language has like been reduced to like these very, very short interactions with visuals. But AI and all of these technologies actually allow us to reclaim language, and that's a very powerful, amazing. That's almost like manual technology, right? We think about orators and Stoics and all of these things that we've carried with us for thousands of years, and so we're at a very exciting place. And I think it's like part of the reason I'm excited to be in the tech industry now and working in that is like, how do we make sure that we bring the creatives with us, right? So this is just a quick idea of like immersive storytelling that you can do with augmented reality. And
hello there.
Idea of like how can we actually
what am I saying? I'm partnering with Membit. That's all? Hey guys, I'm partnering with this really cool app called Membit. Using AR, we're introducing a new way to experience Van Gogh. Check it out. I can do that again. This is the Van Gogh Dome. This has an incredible Van Gogh painting created into a dome. And when you enter it, you can hear the song playing. So this is using AR technology, using Membit, to allow us to experience this from your phone. Check it out. This is what it looks like when you're inside.
New form of storytelling, right? So it isn't just about, oh, I'm an OpenSea and I can now put my crystal OG rock in AR. It's like, okay, we can actually have really powerful and meaningful experiences for fans, and of course with this sort of like new decentralized social graphs that are coming,
Peace.
the ability to create content. You actually can create new revenue streams and monetization models for creators with their fans, right? So there's the ability for both sides to be a part of it. One thing we're working on with music is the idea of AI text to lyrics. So how do you actually like take a song, create these kind of like, moments? One of the examples we use is the Drake, I only love my mom in my bed, I'm sorry. And it's like, okay, grown man with a mom tattoo hugging a mattress, and it's like just like what does these visualizations become? And then like fans, as we get to video, fans can make their own music videos of your lyrics. Like there's so much possibility when the people who actually are very creative have the opportunity to work with these tools that we're just scratching the forefront of. So, and also just so I learned also yesterday that he's saying my bed and not my bed, which is his son's name. So I might have to get a new example. And this is, again, just another amazing example of someone who's building with text to video. Deform is open source, and the power of this moment is actually being able to leverage open source core technology, right? And then you can optimize tools. It allows for new contributions. It allows for people to really come together and keep the cost low in for the user, or low for the end user. So so that's a little bit about what we're up to. Really excited to be in the space and bring more creatives to really innovate. And if you're building any products or are interested in having people try them out, more than happy to chat. And and it's really exciting to be able to be this early with all of the infrastructure that's being built. So yeah, that's it. I'm Sean. These are some links, and thank you very much.
Did anyone have any questions for Sean before we wrap up and head over for drinks and food next door?
I'm just kind of curious. So you talked about these examples of text to video and all these things and helping these creators. But how does the money, or not money, but how do these creators sort of benefit financially through these various projects and things like that? Like, that's my question on that.
Yeah, no, super interesting. I mean, I think the immediate thoughts that we have around it is, right, when you have access to amazing tools, you actually have a higher quality of content, which you can then use to monetize to your audience, right? So usually you have a song. Let's just take a musician. That's an easy example. You have a song, could be amazing, right? There's 150,000 songs made every day. So or like released on Spotify, not even made, so probably a million, right? So you have 150,000 songs released every day on Spotify, which is literally a flat wave that you're passively listening to on your phone. So how do you stand out as a musician, even if you're the best thing in the world? Well, maybe you do a MIDI music video, right? Or you're like working on TikTok, but still to do that, you need a stylist, you need access to people to help you film. And over time, what you're gonna make is not gonna be more interesting than someone who actually has a budget and a film crew. So these kind of tools of really being able to create high quality visualizations, high quality moments with what your music is to contextualize it, especially when you can put them on social graphs, allow for your fans to see something amazing, right? So it helps them to visualize the song. And then the next step that is really interesting with let's just take Lens for instance, right? So you can collect, right? There's a collect module. So there's this ability for a creator to utilize these tools, make something amazing, like maybe it's just 20-second visual loop with AI with lyrics on it, and your fans can collect these. So at Amatic, at one USDC, whatever you want to do. And you can also unlock new opportunities for them. So one thing we're thinking about is you collect it, and then you get an AR of the image, right? So immediately there's an incentive for the fan to collect it. But there's also the ability to do things like remixing, right? So you can take an image, right, in AI or with video, and that can be remixed over time. So that collector, so basically like you can post something, and then your fans can continue to remix it and also monetize off of it. So you're creating creator-generated content, which also just opens up another revenue stream, because usually fans are left out of the equation a lot of times, right? And especially as we talk about NFTs, it's usually like, buy my NFT, right? And you're like, okay, why? But if you can actually kind of bring some storytelling, some reasoning behind it, then it also allows for the fan to feel empowered, right? And it's also a way for them to give to it, because most fans don't know that musicians don't make money, or that filmmakers don't make money, or that designers don't make money. Like, think about all the people every day on Instagram who are designers and artists posting things for free. It's cool. It's really cool to get 20,000 likes or whatever. There's no monetary value behind that, right? So to be able to make systems in place and then also elevate your art so you can work faster, and you're not like running around trying to get $30,000 for a music video, or like calling, writing to like playlist pluggers to like put your song in this or that. You actually can step back from the situation and be a creative again and think about, okay, I can use AR to like tell this story and put maybe like, characters from the song in different places that people can go to, or I can use AI to like visualize what I want my music video to be like, so that fans can actually emotionally understand what's going on. So that's just a little of like, I think, where we are now and where our heads are at, but I'm sure there are going to be a million use cases.
Can I ask my question? All right. How do you represent the industry of film production, especially with NFT? What is your vision on it? Can you talk about it?
So actually in the DAO, we have one of my friends, he's an actor on like a pretty famous show, which is cool. And he, this summer, was like sitting on set every day, and they're like, we're gonna use you, because you're just like, when you're in these big shows and you're cast for 7 years, 7 years of your life, first of all, is now in one role, right? Like, I think a really classic example, if you think about someone like the cast of Friends, right? They were on TV forever, and they had so much money, and then all of a sudden the show was over, and like, all they could do is be themselves, right? And now everyone's like, you're this character that you're not, but they're actors, right? They spent their lives training. So you get into this like world where you are in the middle. You don't have money to make your own films. You don't have like the sort of like crew and the things that a studio might have to sort of continue to progress, and so you kind of get stuck, right? And what's beautiful about Web3, in addition from like crowdfunding and fundraising and other platforms, is that you can actually have control over your career a bit, right? You at a lower price point, especially if we get to AI to video, are going to be able, like for films, like real films, right? You're going to be able to actually like bring your ideas to life at a much earlier point. So in the short term, we're thinking about some kind of like Web3 film festival, but like set in the global South, right? Like go to like South Africa, teach a bunch of kids like how to write a script, how to write a screenplay, and like do a mobile-only film festival. Like I think there's a lot of ways to play around. We don't have like this is what you need to do, but I think what's good is we can at least see where like the challenges are or have been from what's already existed and start to experiment with new ways, whether it just be, sometimes it's not about monetization, right? It's just like, I need a role that like shows people that I'm actually like an actor or a director, being able to like get people to commit to something without having to fundraise millions of dollars. So I think there's a lot of use cases for film as well. And the guy next to you is working in that. So if you want to chat with him, he'll probably have
Mihail,
some
if
as
you
well.
want to just for a minute, just tell people about Beam.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I think Web3 is made of a lot of islands that needs to be cross-pollinated. So there is a thing called Film 3. So it's a term that has been coined back in March in LA. We're part of that group. So Beam is basically a Web3, live streaming platform and live events where you can screen your films, when you can engage with the community. It supports token gating and distribution and monetization. And you can think of it like we're not a platform, we're more of a toolkit to allow creators to become their own platform, right? So it's completely white label. So Film 3 is basically a number of filmmakers, investors, producers, creators, especially in LA, but now in New York, London, and other places. And what we're seeing is they're coming together, either coming out from Pixar or Disney or Warner or a bunch of other big places, and creating small Web3 studios together with talent and cast, but also independent filmmakers. And essentially they're using a couple of things. First of all, they put the community first, and in Film 3 we assume a movie doesn't start when it's finished and released in theaters, and it doesn't end with the end credits. It starts with the idea and it never ends, actually. So that means that the process of working and developing and financing and producing and then post-producing and distributing the movie, all the stages of the film are done together with your communities. You start building your community from day one, a bit like you would do in an NFT project, right? You start monetizing with your community as much as you can by releasing NFTs. And by the way, we had an independent filmmaker, completely unknown, from Spain actually, who did a short film 2 years ago, and he started to use Beam to promote his short film, and he raised $600,000 with NFTs, and he entered production in September. Film is in the can. He's now in post-production, and he's going to hit festivals in January. And he did a very cool thing that, his short was available for everyone, but it's only if you have his NFTs that you would be able to participate in the pre-production and production of the film, watch, daily clips he was uploading or be on live events from the production set, and that was token gated. So, and also the cross-pollination among all those projects. So I have to say that there's a bunch of large investment companies that are moving in that direction. I can point you to Decentralized Pictures, which is from the Coppola family, that is doing that. It's a decentralized platform where you can submit your project, people can vote. They forked Tezos, I don't know why, but they forked Tezos to build their own voting system. But basically, if you're upvoted and you're voted by the community for your project, no matter in which stage, you receive funding and support from the entire Coppola family, and Soderbergh gave like $300,000 for a bunch of projects. So it's happening, and there's a bunch of things that are burgeoning in different places. Happy to connect you, but there's one place, if you all take a note, it's NFT Film Squad. It's on Twitter. They have weekly spaces. It's an open community. You can listen to what they do. We're part of that. So yeah.
Thank you. Yondon, last question.
Yeah, awesome work. Really cool presentation. I thought it was really interesting, the case study with the Colombian artists, where it sounds like the pitch that you gave them with that they can actually have these like presets, and then people could like generate art off of those preset works that they publicized. Mainly because I know that simultaneously that's also been one of the more controversial elements of generative AI online, where like everyone everyone was generating cool pieces of art and saying like, buy Greg Rutkowski on like ArtStation or something. And then there was a lot of controversy around being able to like evoke the name of an artist when you actually generate art. So I'm just curious, when you actually made this pitch to them, did it click immediately for them? I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on like what that story that you told them was like, such that they really bought into that full experience.
Yeah, I would say great question. And the short answer is no. It took a lot of hand-holding because, you have to imagine Spanish is not my first language. So I was like, okay, I hope you understand what I'm saying in Spanish. We had a partner who was local who could like sort of like facilitate to make sure that it was okay. But you're dealing first with like the idea of like cryptography, right? And like money that it doesn't exist and like how that's held and how your payment system. So there's like all of that. And then you are also talking to them about this Web 3 thing that maybe we're in Web 2.1, but you're like trying to explain like this bigger picture to them and then get them settled. So, I would say the person that had the most interesting response to it was actually the metaverse architects who are in the Gallery DAO, because we asked them to build out a spatial mural based off of one of her works. And it was immediate, like, I don't like this. Like, why are we doing this? This is, and not in like a hang up the phone, but in a very like, this is wrong, right? Like, why are we doing this? But then we have to explain, like, this is actually like opening up the ability to tell like amazing diverse stories, like the idea that they can kind of be part of the process and then use that to be re-inspired really clicked. And so they actually at the end had an amazing time building it because they got to connect with this local artist who's, the first time I met, at least Angelica, I saw her work in Cartagena like at the beginning of the year, and I even know. And then we were looking at street artists, and someone sent her through, and I was like, I took a photo of that, like because it was so powerful. And the idea that you can extract someone from, she doesn't live on the street, right? So we're not talking about that. But the idea that this art that maybe no one would ever see if they didn't come to Cartagena and understand what's behind it and bring that to like a larger world stage is really powerful. So I think for them, that's when it really clicked as well, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm an artist. I can paint these things in my local community or in my country or get, I have a client send me abroad, but there is like not really a narrative around what I'm doing. And it's hard to like, also understand sometimes what to do. So that, I think the two biggest takeaways were like, oh wow, now I have a tool that's almost like a thesaurus in some way, right? Like where you get writer's block and you can refer to, like now I have this kind of art tool that's around my style, and that is really fascinating, right? Most artists love technology, like artists are manual technologists, like I was talking about this earlier, right? But the idea that like within a person who is an artist, they hold a lexicon, right? That is just, that's technology in a way, right? We've always been fascinated of like, input, output, but I think it's around the narrative of how it's given, and that's why at the beginning I wanted to talk about it's really important, IMO, and I think it's really important in my opinion that we bring creatives in as soon as possible to the tech that we're building so they can experiment with it and give the feedback, because that's when I think it becomes the flack happens, right? Because I know exactly when that happened with the AI, and it was like, the news stories like AI wins an art contest, right? It's like, and so everyone's just mad because it's like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but all of a sudden AI's here. And it's like, if there can be more nuanced storytelling around what's going on, I think people will be more accepted to it, right? Like, I mean, something to be conscious of course, we were talking about was like rights, just in general, like privacy, right? And of course, places like, I lived in Berlin for like 7 years, and when I got to Berlin, it's like no one was posting on Instagram. Like you were never doing Snapchats. Like I remember I was in the grocery store once and I like filmed my cashier because she had cool hair, and someone followed me out of the store and like literally like made me delete the video because I had violated this person's privacy. And so it's like we're gonna end up in a lot of those issues, but I think as long as there's like a strong narrative as to why the tech can bring things forward, and from this side we can actually bring that to the public, then people will be excited about it. If they only hear about it through the AI contest that's winning, or this film that is now an Oscar nominated from the Coppola Foundation, right? Which is really cool, but like that's some filmmakers angry. Like, why is Francis Ford Coppola in Web3? Like, he's amazing. It's just an example, right? That these people that it's like you have creatives that are like, you develop animosity almost, right, for the leaders, because how the news and things are portrayed is so like one-sided and without the nuance. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to say, yeah, at the beginning they were like, this is, I don't really understand, but the moment it clicked and it's like, they're so excited to do it again, you know, and that's all you can hope for. So thanks.